Part 1. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless stars and planets. It stretched endlessly, a tapestry of light and darkness that no one could fully comprehend. For centuries, the Council of Stars had worked hard to keep peace among its many civilizations. These beings, some with scales, others with wings, and some who glowed like living lanterns, had managed to coexist, despite their differences. They believed in diplomacy, in talking things through, instead of fighting. And for a long time, it worked, but nothing lasts forever. In one corner of the galaxy, two neighboring star systems were on the verge of war. Both claimed ownership over a group of resource-rich planets floating in an unclaimed sector of space. The planets weren't just valuable, they were essential. Their minerals and energy sources could power entire civilizations for generations. Neither side wanted to back down, and tensions grew higher every day. Talks between the two factions broke down quickly, leaving the council scrambling for solutions. It was during this crisis that someone suggested an unusual idea. "What about Earth?" the voice asked timidly in a council meeting. All eyes turned to the speaker, a small, amphibious creature from the planet Zinthora. Its skin shimmered faintly under the chamber's soft glow as it continued. "They are called Deathworlders, for good reason. Their history is filled with conflict, yet they always survive. Perhaps they can teach us something." At first, there was silence. Then murmurs spread across the room. Some delegates leaned forward, intrigued by the thought. Others frowned deeply, clearly disapproving. Earth wasn't part of the galactic community. It was isolated, primitive, compared to most advanced species. Yet, it was undeniable. Humanity had endured more hardship than almost any other known race. Wars, plagues, natural disasters, they faced them all, and somehow kept going. After much debate, the council agreed to send an invitation to Earth. A delegation would be brought aboard the Estria, the flagship of the galactic fleet, to share their knowledge of warfare. If nothing else, it might provide fresh perspectives or so, they hoped. Meanwhile, on Earth, Alex Carter sat in his office late at night, staring at a blank screen. He was a strategist, one of the best in the world. His mind worked like a chessboard, always thinking several moves ahead. But tonight, he couldn't focus. Outside his window, the city lights twinkled against the dark sky. Somewhere beyond those stars, life thrived on worlds he could barely imagine. Alex sighed and rubbed his temples, just as he decided to call it. A night, his phone buzzed. An unknown number flashed on the screen. Curiosity got the better of him, and he answered. On the other end, a strange voice spoke, not quite human, but not entirely alien either. It introduced itself as a representative of the Council of Stars, and extended an invitation for Alex to join a special mission. At first he thought it was a prank, but when holographic images of swirling galaxies and sleek spacecraft appeared before his eyes, doubt turned into awe. By morning, Alex had packed his bags. He wasn't alone. Two others had received similar invitations. Rachel Dawson, a psychologist who specialized in understanding the minds of soldiers, and Ben Harper, a historian obsessed with ancient battles. Together, they boarded a shuttle unlike anything they'd ever seen. Sleek, silver, and humming with energy, it whisked them away from Earth faster than they thought possible. When they arrived on the Espire, they were greeted by towering aliens whose forms defied description. There were insectoids, with chitinous exoskeletons, aquatic beings encased in water-filled suits, and even translucent entities that seemed to float rather than walk. Despite their differences, all eyes were on the humans. Whispers echoed around them, though none of the three understood what was being said. An official stepped forward, a tall, elegant figure with shimmering robes that shifted colors like oil on water. Its voice resonated through the chamber, translated seamlessly into English. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," it began. "We have summoned you here because our galaxy faces a challenge we cannot resolve alone. Your people have survived countless trials. Teach us how you fight, how you adapt, and how you endure." Alex exchanged glances with Rachel and Ben. This was real. They were standing in the middle of a spaceship orbiting a distant star, surrounded by creatures straight out of science fiction. Yet, beneath the wonder lay a sense of unease. What did these aliens truly want? And what would happen if they shared humanity's darkest secrets? Over the next few days, the trio settled into their new surroundings. The Astria was a marvel of engineering, its corridors alive with activity. Robots zipped past, carrying supplies. Holograms flickered to life, displaying maps of star systems and schematics of alien ships. Everywhere they looked, there was something new to marvel at. Yet, not everyone was pleased with their presence. One delegate, Cale Vorn, made his feelings clear from the start. He was a reptilian creature, with sharp features and cold, calculating eyes. During a formal dinner held in the humans' honor, he approached their table with deliberate steps. "You think your violent ways will help us?" he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "We built this galaxy on peace, not bloodshed." Rachel met his gaze calmly, her expression unreadable. "Violence isn't always the answer," she replied, "but sometimes it's necessary. Survival often depends on knowing when to fight and when to walk away." Cale snorted and stalked off, muttering under his breath. Alex watched him go, feeling a chill run down his spine. Something about the alien's demeanor set off warning bells in his mind. This wasn't just skepticism, it was hostility. Despite moments like these, the humans pressed on. They spent hours preparing lessons, drawing from Earth's rich history of warfare. Alex focused on tactics, explaining how armies adapted to terrain and circumstances. Rachel delved into psychology, teaching the importance of morale and deception. Ben provided context, sharing stories of battles fought long ago and the lessons learned from them as they worked. They couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a fine line. These aliens were powerful, far beyond anything humanity had achieved. What would happen if they took Earth's brutal methods and applied them without restraint? Would the galaxy become safer or more dangerous? For now, there was no turning back. The lessons had begun, and the fate of the stars hung in the balance. Part 2, the first lesson took place in a grand chamber aboard the Astria. The walls shimmered with holographic displays, showing star maps and battle simulations. Alex stood at the front of the room, his posture confident, despite the weight of the moment. Rachel and Ben sat nearby, ready to assist if needed. Before them sat the alien delegates, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. Some leaned forward eagerly, while others crossed their arms or shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Alex cleared his throat and began. "War is not just about strength," he said, his voice steady. "It's about knowing how to use what you have, no matter how little it might seem." He gestured to one of the holograms, which shifted to show a dense jungle. "This is Earth's Amazon rainforest. It's hot, humid, and full of dangers. But it's also where some of humanity's greatest victories happened because people learned to adapt." He clicked a button on a device given to him by the Council. The hologram changed again, this time displaying soldiers moving silently through the trees. They wore camouflage and carried simple weapons. These fighters didn't rely on big armies or advanced technology, Alex explained. They used the environment to their advantage. They hid in the shadows, struck quickly, and disappeared before the enemy could react. One of the insectoid Zorvath raised a limb, its chitinous exoskeleton glinting under the light. "But surely such tactics are outdated," it said, its voice translated into English. "We have ships that can destroy entire planets. Why bother with stealth?" Alex smiled faintly. "Because even the strongest weapon can fail if you don't know when or how to use it. And sometimes, the smallest action can change everything." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Let me show you another example." The hologram shifted once more, this time showing a desert landscape. Sand stretched endlessly, broken only by rocky outcrops. A convoy of vehicles moved slowly across the terrain. This was a battle fought in Earth's Middle East, Alex continued. The attackers knew they couldn't win in a direct fight. So instead, they waited until nightfall. When the enemy couldn't see them coming, they hit supply lines, cutting off food and water. Without those resources, the larger force collapsed. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates nodded thoughtfully, while others exchanged skeptical looks. Cale Vorn, seated near the back, rolled his eyes. "This is useless," he muttered loud enough for those around him to hear. "We don't need tricks, we need power." Rachel caught the comment and leaned closer to Alex. "Maybe we should switch gears," she whispered. "Show them something less primitive." Alex hesitated, but agreed. He turned back to the group and gestured to Rachel. "My colleague has another perspective to share," he said. Rachel stood, smoothing her jacket nervously. She wasn't used to speaking in front of an audience like this, especially one so alien, but she reminded herself why she was here to help prevent war, not start one. "Fighting isn't always about weapons or terrain," Rachel began. "Sometimes, the most powerful tool is the mind." She pointed to the hologram, which now displayed images of propaganda posters from Earth's history. Bold letters proclaimed messages meant to inspire, intimidate. During times of conflict, humans have used information to shape opinions. By controlling what people believe, you can control how they act. She walked among the delegates, making eye contact with as many as she could. "Imagine this. Your enemy thinks you're stronger than you really are. They hesitate, unsure of what to do next. That hesitation gives you time to prepare, to strike, or even to negotiate, or imagine. The opposite, you convince them they're invincible. They grow reckless, make mistakes, and leave themselves open to attack." A few delegates perked up at this idea. One of the aquatic Trelkins tilted its head, its gills fluttering slightly. "You mean lies?" it asked. "Not exactly," Rachel replied. "It's more about perception. Humans call it psychological warfare. You plant seeds of doubt, tore confidence, and let them grow. Sometimes, the battle is won before a single shot is fired." Ben watched quietly from his seat, taking notes. When Rachel finished, he joined her at the front. "History teaches us these lessons over and over," he said, his tone calm and measured. "From ancient battles to modern wars, the same principles apply. Know yourself, know your enemy, and never underestimate the importance of preparation." He tapped a button, and the hologram shifted to show scenes of knights clashing swords, tanks rolling across fields, and spaceships firing lasers. Every era has its own tools, but the strategies remain constant. Adaptability, deception, understanding, all of these are timeless. The room fell silent as the delegates absorbed the presentation. For some, it sparked curiosity. For others, frustration. Cale Vorn rose abruptly, his tail lashing behind him. "Enough," he snapped. "These stories are meaningless. We are not humans. We don't crawl through jungles or play games with words. If someone threatens our way of life, we crush them. That is strength." His words hung heavy in the air. Several delegates nodded in agreement, while others frowned, clearly uncomfortable with his aggression. Alex stepped forward, meeting Cale's gaze without flinching. "Strength isn't just about crushing your enemies," he said evenly. "It's about surviving, about finding ways to protect what matters most. Isn't that why we're all here?" Cale sneered but said nothing more. Instead, he stormed out of the chamber, his footsteps echoing loudly. The tension lingered after he left, though the session continued. More questions followed, some probing deeper into the lessons, others challenging their relevance. By the end of the day, the humans were exhausted, but also intrigued. Later that evening, Alex, Rachel, and Ben gathered in their quarters to debrief. The room was small, but comfortable, with soft lighting and a view of the stars outside. Alex slumped into a chair, running a hand through his hair. That could have gone better, he admitted. Rachel sighed, pacing back and forth. I knew someone like Cale would be trouble. He doesn't want to learn, he wants to dominate. He's not alone, Ben added. Some of the others seem just as eager to dismiss us. But I think we got through to a few of them. Alex nodded slowly. Yeah, maybe. Still, it feels like we're walking a tightrope. Teach too little, and they'll think we're holding back. Teach too much, and, he trailed off, leaving the thought unfinished, and they'll use it against each other, Rachel finished grimly. We gave them ideas today. What happens if they twist them into something worse? Ben leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. That's not on us. They're the ones choosing how to apply what we say. Our job is to give them tools, not decide how to wield them. Rachel stopped pacing and looked at him. But doesn't that make us responsible anyway? If someone gets hurt because of what we taught, Alex cut her off gently. We can't second guess every move. All we can do is try to guide them toward smarter decisions. Maybe that's enough. For a while, none of them spoke. The hum of the ship filled the silence, a constant reminder of where they weren't, how far they were from home. Outside the window, a distant star flickered faintly, its light traveling millions of years to reach them. Finally, Rachel broke the quiet. Tomorrow will be different. We'll focus on teamwork. Show them how cooperation can turn weakness into strength. Alex managed a small smile. Sounds like a plan. Let's hope they listen. As they prepared for bed, none of them noticed the faint glow of a surveillance drone hovering outside their window. Its lens focused briefly on the trio, before drifting away, carrying unseen data back to someone who had plans of their own. Part 3 the next morning began with a sense of unease. Alex, Rachel, and Ben woke early, their minds still heavy from the previous day's challenges. They met in the small dining area of their quarters, where synthetic food replicated to mimic Earth cuisine was laid out on a table. None of them had much of an appetite, but they forced themselves to eat. The day ahead would be long, and they needed their strength as they ate. Rachel brought up Cale Vorn. He didn't just walk out yesterday, she said, her voice low. He made sure everyone saw him leave. That wasn't just anger, it was a statement. Ben nodded thoughtfully. You're right. He wants the others to doubt us. If enough delegates side with him, the council might shut us down before we even finish. Alex leaned back in his chair, frowning. We can't let that happen. We need to show them something today that proves our methods work, not just for war, but for survival. Something undeniable. Rachel brightened slightly. What if we focus on teamwork? Humans don't win battles alone. It's about groups, working together, trusting each other. Maybe that'll resonate more than individual tactics. Good idea, Alex agreed. But it has to be interactive. No more lectures or holograms. Let's put them in a situation where they have no choice but to cooperate. Ben grinned faintly. A simulation, like the ones we used in training back home, but scaled up for aliens. They spent the next hour planning. When they arrived at the chamber, the delegates were already seated, their expressions ranging from curious to skeptical. Cale Vorn was notably absent, though his absence seemed to hang over the room like a shadow. Alex stepped forward, his confidence masking the nerves he felt inside. Today, he began, we're doing something different. Instead of watching simulations, you'll experience one yourselves. You'll work together to solve a problem, a challenge, designed to test your ability to adapt and collaborate. A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. Some delegates looked intrigued, while others exchanged wary glances. One of the aquatic Trolkans raised a fin-like appendage. What kind of challenge? It asked. Alex smiled. That's part of the lesson. You'll figure it out as you go. With that, the humans led the group to a large arena-like space. The floor was covered in shifting panels that could transform into different terrains: desert sands, icy plains, dense forests. Above, holographic projectors created realistic skies, complete with moving clouds and changing light. At the center of the room stood several objects, crates, tools, and what appeared to be pieces of alien technology. "This is your task," Rachel explained. "You will divide into teams and retrieve these artifacts scattered across the terrain. But there's a catch: you won't know the full layout until you start. Obstacles will appear randomly, forcing you to adapt. Communication and cooperation are key." The delegates hesitated, unsure how to proceed. Finally, one of the insectoid Zorvath stepped forward. "How do we form teams?" "That's up to you," Ben replied. "Choose wisely. Strength isn't always about numbers, it's about balance." After some debate, the delegates formed 3 groups. Each team included members from different species, ensuring diversity in skills and perspectives. As they prepared to begin, Alex activated the simulation. The panels beneath their feet shifted, transforming the arena into a rugged, mountainous landscape. Steep cliffs rose around them, and narrow paths wound between jagged rocks. The first challenge quickly became apparent. The teams had to cross a deep ravine using only a few planks of varying lengths. The planks were scattered across the starting area, requiring coordination to gather and assemble. Tempers flared almost immediately. Some delegates argued over who should carry the planks, while others tried to take charge without consulting their teammates. Rachel watched closely, jotting notes on a tablet. "This is exactly what I expected," she whispered to Alex. "They're struggling because they don't trust each other yet." Alex nodded. "But they'll learn, or they'll fail. Either way, it's a lesson." One team, led by a tall, feathered avian named Scylla, managed to bridge the gap after several tense minutes. Their success came not from brute force, but from careful planning and listening to each member's input. Another team struggled, their arguments growing louder as frustration mounted. The third team, however, surprised everyone. Despite initial disagreements, they found a rhythm, working silently and efficiently. Within moments, they too crossed the ravine. As the simulation progressed, new challenges emerged. Landslides blocked paths, forcing the teams to find alternate routes. Sudden storms reduced visibility, testing their ability to navigate under pressure. At one point, a section of the terrain collapsed entirely, leaving one team stranded on an isolated plateau. Rather than abandon them, the other 2 teams pooled resources to create a makeshift rope bridge, demonstrating unexpected cooperation. Cale Vorn arrived midway through the exercise, slipping into the observation area unnoticed. His expression darkened as he watched the teams work together. To him, this display of unity was a threat, a sign that the humans' teachings might sway the council against his vision of dominance. He clenched his fists, but said nothing, content to observe for now. By the time the simulation ended, all 3 teams had retrieved their artifacts, though not without difficulty. Exhausted but triumphant, they returned to the main chamber for debriefing. Alex stood before them, his tone warm but firm. "You succeeded," he said, "but not because any one of you was stronger or smarter than the rest. You succeeded because you worked together, because you trusted each other, even when it was hard." Rachel added, "Conflict doesn't always mean opposition. Sometimes, it means finding common ground. Your differences make you stronger if you use them wisely." Ben gestured to the artifacts the teams had collected. "These represent solutions. Whether it's crossing a ravine or solving a diplomatic crisis, the principle is the same. Alone, you might survive. Together, you thrive." The delegates sat quietly, absorbing the words. For the first time since their arrival, there was a sense of camaraderie among them. Even those who had been skeptical seemed to soften, their earlier resistance giving way to reflection. But Cale Vorn remained unmoved. As the session concluded, he approached Alex, his tail flicking irritably. "Your little game changes nothing," he growled. "These lessons are distractions. What we need is action, not games." Alex met his gaze evenly. Action without understanding leads to failure. If you want results, you have to be willing to learn. Kale sneered, but walked away without another word. His departure left a lingering tension in the air, a reminder that not everyone shared the human's vision. Later, back in their quarters, Alex, Rachel, and Ben reviewed the day's events. "It went better than I expected," Alex admitted. "They actually listened for once," Rachel nodded. "The simulation worked. They saw what happens when they work together. But Kale, he's still a problem. He's dangerous," Ben agreed. "If he convinces enough delegates that we're a threat, the council might turn on us." Alex sighed, rubbing his temples. "We can't control him. All we can do is keep pushing forward, show them why we're here, and hope they choose the right path." Outside their window, the stars burned brightly, indifferent to the struggles unfolding below. Somewhere in the vastness of space, decisions were being made that would shape the future of countless worlds, and whether they realized it or not. The fate of the galaxy rested heavily on the shoulders of three humans trying desperately to teach the art of peace through war. Part 4. The days that followed the simulation brought a mix of progress and tension. The delegates seemed more engaged, their initial skepticism giving way to cautious curiosity. They began asking questions, not just about tactics, but about the principles behind them. Some even stayed after sessions to speak with Alex, Rachel, and Ben, seeking clarification or sharing insights from their own cultures. It was clear that the humans' lessons were making an impact, but not everyone was pleased. Kale Vorn watched from the sidelines, his sharp eyes missing nothing. He saw how the humans' teachings encouraged cooperation, how they emphasized adaptability over brute force. To him, this was dangerous. The galaxy had thrived under the Council's rule because of order, not chaos. These new ideas, these Deathworlder strategies, threatened to upset the balance he believed in, and Kale wasn't the type to sit idly by while others dismantled what he held dear. One evening, as the humans prepared for another day of lessons, Kale made his move. He gathered a small group of like-minded delegates in a private chamber aboard the Astria. The room was dimly lit, its walls lined with glowing panels that cast eerie shadows across their faces. Among those present were representatives from species known for their militaristic tendencies: the insectoid Zorvath, the armored Vrakans, and a few others who shared Kale's distrust of the humans. "We cannot allow this to continue," Kale began, his voice low but commanding. "These earthlings are planting seeds of disorder. They speak of unity, of working together, but what they truly offer is division. Their so-called strategies will lead us down a path of endless conflict." One of the Zorvath clicked its mandibles. In agreement. "They teach deception, manipulation. These are not tools of peace. They are weapons." "And yet," a Vrakan rumbled, crossing its thick arms, "many on the council seem taken with their ideas. If we oppose them openly, we risk losing influence." Kale's lips curled into a sly smile. "Then we must act carefully. Not openly, but subtly. Let us show the council the dangers of these teachings before it's too late." The group leaned closer, intrigued. Kale continued, outlining his plan. "We will use their own methods against them. Deception, misinformation. Let us demonstrate how easily such tactics can be turned to harmful ends. When the council sees the chaos they bring, they will have no choice but to abandon these humans and their barbaric ways." The others nodded, their resolve hardening. They left the chamber quietly, each returning to their quarters to prepare for what lay ahead. Meanwhile, Alex, Rachel, and Ben remained unaware of the storm brewing around them. They focused on refining their lessons, determined to build on the progress they'd made. The next day's session would focus on communication, topic Rachel had been eager to explore. Communication isn't just about talking, she explained to the delegates during the morning briefing. It's about understanding, about finding ways to connect, even when you don't share the same language or culture. To illustrate her point, she divided the delegates into pairs, assigning each pair a simple task: build a structure using blocks and tools provided. But there was a twist: they weren't allowed to speak. Instead, they had to rely on gestures, expressions, and creative problem-solving to communicate. At first, frustration bubbled to the surface. Some delegates gestured wildly, their movements growing increasingly exaggerated as their partners failed to understand. Others sat silently, glaring at the materials as if willing them to assemble themselves. But slowly, connections began to form. A Trelkin used fluid hand signals to guide its partner, an avian creature, in stacking the blocks. A Zorvath tapped out rhythms on the table, signaling which piece to place next. By the end of the exercise, most pairs had completed their structures, however imperfectly. Rachel smiled as she walked among them. See? Even without words, you found ways to work together. That's the power of communication. It bridges gaps, builds trust. Her words resonated with many of the delegates. One of the avians tilted its head thoughtfully. This could be useful in negotiations, it said. Not all disagreements require speeches. Sometimes, actions speak louder. Ben nodded. Exactly. Understanding doesn't always come from debates. Sometimes, it comes from listening or watching. As the session ended, several delegates lingered, asking follow-up questions or discussing how they might apply these lessons in their own systems. For the first time since arriving, Alex felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they were getting through. But Kale's plan was already in motion. That night, as the humans reviewed the day's events in their quarters, strange reports began circulating aboard the Astria. Rumors spread of unusual activity near the neutral trade hub, a bustling station where goods and resources were exchanged between star systems. Ships had been spotted lingering in the area, their intentions unclear. Then came whispers of sabotage, damaged equipment, disrupted supply lines, and unexplained delays. By morning, the news reached the council chamber. Delegates gathered in a state of alarm, their usual calm replaced by urgency. One of the aquatic Trelkins addressed the room, its voice trembling with concern. The trade hub is critical to our economy. If something happens to it, the consequences could ripple across the galaxy. Alex, Rachel, and Ben listened intently, unsure how this crisis connected to their lessons, if at all. But Kale seized the moment. Rising to his feet, he fixed his cold gaze on the humans. "Is this what you wanted?" he demanded, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "To teach us your tricks, only for us to turn them against ourselves, who sabotaged the trade hub? Was it one of us, or was it someone inspired by your teachings?" The accusation hung heavy in the air. The delegates turned to look at the humans, suspicion clouding their expressions. Alex stepped forward, his tone measured but firm. "We didn't come here to cause trouble," he said. "Our goal is to help. If someone is using our lessons to create chaos, that's not on you, it's on them." Rachel added, "These strategies aren't inherently good or bad. It's how you use them that matters. Blaming us won't solve anything." Kale's tail lashed behind him. "Easy to say," he spat. "But the truth remains. This problem began when you arrived." The chamber erupted into argument. Some delegates sided with Kale, their fear turning into anger. Others defended the humans, pointing out that tensions had existed long before Earth's involvement. The debate grew heated, voices rising, until the elegant figure who had welcomed the humans intervened. "Enough," it declared, its shimmering robes catching the light. "Accusations will not resolve this issue. We need facts. An investigation must be conducted immediately." Rachel raised her hand hesitantly. "I volunteer to lead it," she said. Her heart raced as all eyes turned to her. but she pressed on. I've studied patterns of behavior, both human and otherwise. I can analyze evidence, identify motives, and find the truth. The council hesitated, then agreed. With the support of Alex and Ben, Rachel formed a task force comprising delegates from various species. Their mission was clear: uncover who or what was behind the sabotage at the trade hub. As they prepared to depart, Kale approached Rachel, his expression unreadable. Be careful, he warned, his voice low. You may find more than you bargained for. Rachel met his gaze steadily. I'm not afraid of the truth, she replied. Are you? Kale said nothing, turning away with a faint smirk. His silence was more unsettling than any threat. The investigation took the team to the trade hub itself, a sprawling complex orbiting a gas giant. Its corridors buzzed with activity, though the mood was tense. Workers hurried past, exchanging worried glances. Damage was evident everywhere: broken machinery, scorch marks on walls, and sections cordoned off due to safety concerns. Rachel led the team methodically, examining every detail. She noticed inconsistencies almost immediately. The damage appeared deliberate, but lacked consistency. Some areas bore signs of precision, while others seemed haphazard. It was as if multiple actors were involved, each with different levels of skill. This wasn't done by amateurs. Rachel muttered to Alex as they inspected a damaged control panel. Whoever did this knew what they were doing, but they also wanted it to look sloppy. Alex frowned. You think someone's trying to frame someone else? It's possible, Rachel admitted. Or maybe they're covering their tracks. Ben joined them, holding up a fragment of metal he'd found nearby. Look at this, he said. It's part of a drone casing. Not standard issue either. Whoever built this modified it heavily. Rachel's eyes narrowed. Modified drones. Sabotage disguised as incompetence. This smells like a setup. As they pieced together clues, the task force discovered traces of encrypted messages hidden within the station's communication systems. Decoding them revealed partial instructions orders to disrupt operations without drawing attention. The sender was anonymous, but the style of the commands matched descriptions of Kale's rhetoric. Rachel felt a chill run down her spine. She had suspected foul play, but seeing evidence of deliberate manipulation confirmed her worst fears. Someone was using the humans' teachings to sow discord and framing them in the process. Back aboard the Astria, Rachel presented her findings to the council. The chamber fell silent as holograms displayed the evidence: the modified drones, the inconsistent damage, the encrypted messages. When she finished, all eyes turned to Kale. Part 5. The council chamber was tense, the air thick with suspicion and unease. Rachel stood at the center of the room, her findings displayed in holographic detail for all to see. The evidence pointed toward a deliberate effort to destabilize the trade hub, an act designed not just to cause damage, but to create division among the delegates. Yet, despite the clarity of her presentation, doubts lingered. Kale Vorn crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. Circumstantial, he repeated, his voice cold. You accuse me based on fragments of drones and coded messages. This proves nothing. Rachel didn't flinch. She had expected resistance, especially from someone like Kale. It's not about accusing you personally, she said calmly. It's about following the trail where it leads. These tactics, disruption without clear attribution, are exactly what we warned about. Someone is using deception to turn us against each other. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some delegates nodded thoughtfully, while others exchanged uneasy glances. The avian representative tilted its head, feathers rustling softly. She has a point, it said. If this sabotage goes unaddressed, trust will erode further. We cannot afford that. Kale's tail flicked irritably. Trust. You speak of trust while defending humans who teach chaos under the guise of cooperation. Alex stepped forward, his tone firm but measured. We didn't come here to start wars or create distrust. Our goal was and still is to help. If someone is twisting our lessons into weapons, that's not on us. That's on them, Ben added. And if we don't confront this now, it'll only get worse. Whoever is behind this won't stop at the trade hub. They'll keep pushing until they've achieved their goal, whatever that may be. The council leader, the shimmering figure who had welcomed the humans, initially raised a hand, silencing the growing debate. Its voice resonated throughout the chamber, calm but commanding. Enough. Accusations serve no purpose unless backed by proof. Investigator Dawson, your findings are troubling, but incomplete. What do you propose next? Rachel took a deep breath. I suggest we set a trap, she said. Whoever is responsible will likely strike again, especially if they think we're divided. If we create conditions that expose their methods or even lure them into acting, we can gather more concrete evidence. The idea sparked immediate reactions. Some delegates leaned forward, intrigued by the possibility of catching the saboteurs. Others frowned deeply, clearly uncomfortable with the notion of baiting an unknown enemy. Kale, however, remained silent, his sharp eyes studying Rachel intently. This is reckless, one of the Zorvaths clicked, its mandibles clicking rapidly. What if the trap fails? Or worse, what if it escalates the conflict? It's a risk, Rachel admitted, but doing nothing is riskier. Every day we delay gives them more time to act and more opportunities to harm innocent people. The council leader considered her words, then turned to the assembled delegates. All those in favor of proceeding with Investigator Dawson's plan, hands rose hesitantly, though not unanimously. A slim majority supported the idea, enough to move forward. Kale's hand stayed firmly at his side, his expression darkening further. As the meeting concluded, he slipped away quietly, his movements deliberate and unhurried. Later that evening, Alex, Rachel, and Ben met in their quarters to finalize the details of the plan. The room was dimly lit, the hum of the ship providing a constant backdrop to their conversation. Rachel paced back and forth, her mind racing with possibilities. We need to make it convincing, she said. Whoever's behind this is smart. They won't fall for something obvious. Alex nodded. Agreed. Let's use the trade hub again. It's already vulnerable, and they'll expect us to focus there. But we'll add layers, false trails, decoys, anything to draw them out. Ben scribbled notes on a tablet, his brow furrowed in concentration. And surveillance. Lots of it. Cameras, sensors, maybe even some of those modified drones we found. If we can track their movements, we might catch them in the act. Rachel stopped pacing and looked at him. Good idea. But we'll need help. Not everyone on the task force can know the full plan of Kale, or his allies have informants. We can't risk leaks. Agreed, Alex said. Let's keep it tight. Just us, plus a few trusted delegates. They spent the next hour refining the strategy, ensuring every detail was accounted for. By the time they finished, exhaustion weighed heavily on them. Still, none of them could sleep. The stakes were too high, the outcome uncertain. The following morning, the team returned to the trade hub. Under Rachel's direction, they began implementing the plan. False repair crews moved through the corridors, carrying tools and equipment that served no real purpose. Decoy shipments were loaded onto ships, their contents deliberately labeled as valuable resources. Surveillance devices were hidden throughout the station, disguised as ordinary objects. A control panel here, a light fixture there. As the preparations continued, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Workers whispered nervously, unsure whether the increased activity meant safety or danger. Even the task force members seemed on edge, their usual camaraderie replaced by wary silence. Rachel monitored everything from a central command post, her eyes glued to the screens displaying live feeds from the surveillance network. Beside her, Alex and Ben kept watch, ready to respond to any developments. Hours passed without incident. Just as doubt began creeping in, had they misjudged the situation? A faint alert sounded. One of the decoy shipments had been tampered with. Rachel's heart raced as she zoomed in on the feed. A shadowy figure moved cautiously near the cargo bay, its form obscured by a bulky suit. "There," she whispered, pointing to the screen. "That's our saboteur." Alex grabbed a communicator. "Security teams, move in quietly. Don't spook them." Moments later, the figure froze, sensing movement nearby. It glanced around nervously before retreating deeper into the station. The chase was on. Rachel coordinated the pursuit, guiding security teams through the labyrinthine corridors. The saboteur proved elusive, slipping through narrow passages and activating distractions to throw off their pursuers. At one point, it triggered a minor explosion, forcing the team to split up to avoid injury. "They're heading for the docking bay," Ben announced, tracking the saboteur's path on a map. "If they reach a ship, they'll escape." Rachel clenched her fists. "Not if we cut them off first." The final confrontation took place in the docking bay, a vast chamber filled with ships of various sizes. The saboteur darted between vessels, desperate to reach one of the smaller craft. Security teams closed in from multiple directions, leaving no room for retreat. Finally, cornered and out of options, the saboteur removed its helmet. To everyone's shock, it wasn't Kalor, any of his known allies. Instead, it was a young, Trelkin technician, wide-eyed and trembling. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone," the technician stammered, raising its hands defensively. "I was just following orders." Rachel stepped forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Orders from whom?" The technician hesitated, fear evident in its large, liquid eyes. Then, after a long pause, it spoke a single name, Cale Vorn. The revelation sent shockwaves through the team. Alex and Ben exchanged grim looks, while Rachel felt a mix of anger and sadness. They had suspected Cale's involvement, but hearing it confirmed made the betrayal feel sharper, more personal. Back aboard the Astria, the council convened once again. This time, the atmosphere was electric, charged with anticipation. When the Trelkin technician was brought before them, its confession echoed through the chamber. "I was promised protection," it said, its voice quivering. "Cale told me I'd be safe if I helped him," he said. "He said the humans were dangerous, that they would destroy us all if we let them stay." Cale stood motionless, his expression unreadable. Several delegates turned to him, their faces etched with disbelief and anger. The council leader addressed him directly. "Do you deny these accusations?" For a moment, Cale said nothing. Then, slowly, he straightened, his tail flicking behind him. "No," he replied, his voice steady. "I admit it. I orchestrated the sabotage, but I did so to protect the galaxy from them." He pointed sharply at the humans. "Their teachings are poison. They corrupt everything they touch. Would you rather wait until it's too late to see the truth?" His words ignited a firestorm of debate. Some delegates sided with him, echoing his fears. Others condemned his actions, calling for accountability. Through it all, Alex, Rachel and Ben watched silently, aware that the decision now rested in the hands of the council. When the leader finally spoke, its voice carried the weight of authority. "Your intentions do not excuse your actions, Cale Vorn. Sabotage and manipulation have no place in this galaxy. You will face judgment for what you have done." Cale's jaw tightened, but he offered no further protest. As guards escorted him from the chamber, Rachel felt a pang of relief and regret. Justice had been served, but the divisions he had sown would take time to heal. Later, as the humans reflected on the day's events, Alex broke the silence. "We've exposed the truth. Now comes the hard part, rebuilding trust." Rachel nodded, gazing out the window at the stars beyond. "One step at a time," she murmured. "That's all we can do." In the vastness of space, the galaxy waited, its future uncertain, but not yet lost. And somewhere among the countless worlds, hope flickered like a distant star, fragile but enduring. Part 6. The days following Cale Vaughn's arrest were tense aboard the Astrea. The Council of Stars had taken swift action, placing him under heavy guard while they deliberated his punishment. Meanwhile, whispers of betrayal rippled through the ranks of the delegates. Trust already fractured, and suspicion hung thick in the air. For every delegate who condemned Cale's actions, there was another who quietly sympathized with his motives. The humans' teachings had become a lightning rod for division. Alex, Rachel, and Ben found themselves at the center of this storm. Though Cale had been exposed as the saboteur, his accusations lingered like smoke after a fire. Some delegates still viewed the humans as dangerous influences, their strategies too volatile for galactic peace. Others saw them differently, as necessary guides in a galaxy struggling to adapt. The split opinions left the trio walking a tightrope, unsure how much longer they could maintain balance. Rachel spent hours reviewing surveillance footage from the trade hub incident, searching for any overlooked clues. She wanted to ensure that Cale hadn't acted alone, that there wasn't a larger conspiracy lurking beneath the surface. Alex joined her occasionally, leaning over her shoulder as she replayed moments frame by frame. "Do you think he worked alone?" Alex asked one evening, his voice low. Rachel shook her head. "I don't know. He's smart enough to cover his tracks, but something feels incomplete, like he had help." Ben entered the room, carrying a tray of synthetic food. "Or maybe he inspired others," he suggested, setting the tray down. "People who agree with him might have started taking matters into their own hands." Rachel frowned. "That's what worries me. If Cale planted seeds of doubt, they could sprout anywhere. We've seen how quickly fear spreads." Alex sighed, running a hand through his hair. "We can't control everything. All we can do is keep teaching them that our lessons aren't about chaos, but survival." But even as they spoke, new challenges emerged. Reports began filtering in from across the galaxy, minor conflicts breaking out between neighboring systems, disputes over resources escalating into skirmishes. It seemed Cale's sabotage had been just the beginning. His actions had destabilized not only the trade hub, but also the delicate web of alliances holding the galaxy together. The Council called another emergency meeting to address the growing unrest. Delegates filled the chamber, their expressions ranging from grim determination to outright panic. One representative, an avian creature with iridescent feathers, spoke first, its voice trembling with urgency. "Our people are frightened," it said. "They see these disputes as signs of collapse. What assurance can we give them?" The council leader stood, its shimmering robes catching the light. "We must act decisively," it replied. "But we cannot afford rash decisions. Investigator Dawson, your team uncovered the truth behind the sabotage. Do you believe similar tactics are being used elsewhere?" Rachel stepped forward, knowing all eyes were on her. "It's possible," she admitted. "Cale's methods relied on deception and misinformation. Those same tactics could easily be replicated by others who share his beliefs or who simply see opportunity in chaos." A Zorvath delegate clicked its mandibles impatiently. "Then what do you suggest? More investigations? Another trap?" "No," Rachel said firmly. "What we need is transparency. If we can identify the root causes of these conflicts and address them openly, we can prevent further escalation." Ben nodded in agreement. "She's right. These disputes aren't happening in isolation. They're symptoms of deeper issues: mistrust, inequality, fear. Address those, and the conflicts will fade." Alex added, "And we can use what we've taught so far to build bridges instead of walls. Cooperation, communication, these tools work just as well for diplomacy as they do for war." The chamber fell silent as the delegates absorbed their words. Finally, the council leader spoke. "Very well, let us focus on transparency and resolution. Investigator Dawson, your team will assist in mediating these disputes. Work with local leaders to uncover the truth and restore trust." Rachel felt a mix of relief and apprehension. The task ahead would be monumental, requiring patience and persistence. But she knew it was the only way to move forward. Over the next several weeks, Rachel, Alex, and Ben traveled to various star systems affected by the rising tensions. Each location presented unique challenges. In one system, two planets argued over mining rights, their leaders refusing to negotiate directly. In another, smugglers exploited weakened borders, fueling resentment between neighboring governments. Everywhere they went, the humans encountered resistance, but also glimmers of hope. On one planet, a rocky world, with jagged mountains and sprawling cities, they met with a council of elders, representing both sides of a resource dispute. The atmosphere in the council chamber was hostile, voices raised in heated arguments. Rachel listened carefully, jotting notes as each side aired grievances. When she finally spoke, her tone was calm but firm. "You're focusing on what separates you," she said, "but I see common ground. Both sides want prosperity for their people. Both value stability. Why not start there?" Her words prompted a reluctant pause. Slowly, the elders began discussing shared goals rather than differences. By the end of the session, they had agreed to a temporary truce, pledging to revisit negotiations within a month. Elsewhere, Alex worked with military commanders to implement de-escalation protocols. Using examples from Earth's history, he demonstrated how small gestures, like reducing patrols near contested borders, could signal goodwill without appearing weak. Skeptical at first, the commanders eventually embraced his suggestions, leading to a noticeable drop in hostilities. Ben focused on cultural exchanges, organizing events where representatives from opposing factions could interact informally. At one such gathering, a festival celebrating the harvest season, he watched as former adversaries shared stories and laughter over plates of alien delicacies. It was a small victory, but an important one. Despite these successes, challenges remained. Not everyone welcomed the humans' involvement. Some leaders accused them of meddling, while others dismissed their efforts as naive. Even among the delegates aboard the Astria, divisions persisted. While many supported the humans' approach, others continued to question their presence. Kale's influence lingered like a shadow. Though imprisoned, his rhetoric had taken hold in certain circles. Whispers of rebellion bubbled up in remote regions of the galaxy. Fanned by those who believed the Council's reliance on Earth's teachings marked the beginning of the end for galactic unity. One evening, as the humans prepared to leave yet another troubled system, Rachel received an encrypted message. Its origin was untraceable, but the content sent a chill down her spine. Asterisk, "You think you've won, but the fight is far from over." Asterisk, she showed the message to Alex and Ben, who exchanged worried glances. "Could it be Kale?" Alex asked. "Maybe," Rachel replied, "or someone else inspired by him. Either way, it's a reminder that we're not out of danger yet." Ben clenched his fists. "Then we keep going. Every step forward makes it harder for them to turn back." As they boarded their shuttle, bound once again for the Astria, the humans reflected on the road ahead. They had made progress, yes, but the galaxy was vast, its complexities far beyond anything they had faced on Earth. Each victory felt fleeting, overshadowed by the knowledge that instability could erupt anew at any moment. Still, they pressed on. For every conflict resolved, for every bridge built, they reminded themselves why they had come here in the first place: to help, to teach, to guide, and perhaps, in time, to heal. Outside the shuttle's window, stars streaked past in streaks of light. Somewhere among them, countless worlds awaited, some hopeful, some hostile, all connected by the fragile threads of trust. Whether those threads would hold depended not just on the humans, but on the galaxy itself. And though the outcome remained uncertain, one truth was clear: giving up was not an option.